Καλώς ήρθατε στην τρίτη συνάντησή μας για το σεμινάριο της εξαποστάσεως εκπαίδευσης. Σήμερα, όπως και εχθές, είναι μαζί μας οι εκπαιδευτικοί ψυχολόγοι Colin και Elliot Newton. Συνεχίζουμε στο ίδιο μοτίβο με χτες, με σημερινή θεματική πώς θα μπορούσαμε να βελτιώσουμε το αίσθημα της απομόνωσης των παιδιών κατά τη διάρκεια του lockdown. Σήμερα φυσικά η κυρία Λασκαρίδου μαζί μας, αντιπρόεδρος του Ιδρύματος Αικατερίνης Λασκαρίδη και επιστημονική υπεύθυνη του τομέα ψυχικής υγείας. Κυρία Λασκαρίδου.
Καλησπερίζω και εγώ όλους. Χαρά μου και σήμερα έτσι που θα συμμετέχω και θα μάθω και εγώ πράγματα από τη σημερινή συνεδρία. Πραγματικά πρέπει να ομολογήσω ότι επειδή έχουμε έτσι μια χρόνια συνεργασία με τον Colin και τον Elliot, τώρα που κοιτούσα τη τελευταία τους δουλειά, ομολογώ ότι η σημερινή θεματική για το πώς πάμε την απομόνωση των παιδιών, και να πω την αλήθεια όχι μόνο και των παιδιών, αλλά και των ενηλίκων, και τη δική μας, ήταν η πρώτη που τράβηξε την προσοχή μου, γιατί θεωρώ πραγματικά ότι αυτή η αίσθηση της απομόνωσης, της μοναξιάς που βιώνουμε όλοι μας, είναι συχνά μη διαχειρίσιμη. Οπότε, ίσως μαθαίνοντας για τα παιδιά μας, μάθουμε και για τον εαυτό μας πώς να το διαχειριζόμαστε. Θα προσπαθήσω να σας μεταφράζω ελεύθερα και να σας λέω τα βασικά σημεία από την ομιλία τους και πάμε σε ορισμένα σημεία. Άμα μιλάω πολύ γρήγορα, γράψτε ένα μηνυματάκι στο chat για να πηγαίνουμε λίγο πιο σιγά. Ωραία. Οπότε, δίνω το λόγο στον Colin και στον Elliot. Ευχαριστώ.
Mr. Colin, welcome.
Thank you. Kalispera, everybody. Lovely to be here with yourselves again. And this evening we are addressing the challenging problem of isolation for our children and our young people during lockdown, which is very hard for them, as you know only too well. And you will be experiencing that as parents and carers, because it's you who will be feeling it. Because when the more frustrated they get, the more you'll know about it, that's for sure. So what we wanted to explore with you is what could we do creatively within the confines of lockdown to interrupt that awful feeling of loneliness and isolation. And I've got, nobody to talk to, nobody to play with, nobody to hang out with. The children and young people just hate. So I'm Colin Newton. I've been an educational psychologist for some 36 years. I'm based in Nottingham in the middle of the UK, but working across the UK as well as more worldwide from time to time, like today, which is lovely to be here. And I'm joined today by...
My name's Elliot Newton, Kalispera. I'm a psychologist as well, and doing a lot of work with individual young people, trying to help them make friends. So, for example, I use something called the Circle of Friends process, where we set a team of people up around a young person, and they meet regularly and think about what's going well, what's not going well for this young person, and try and support each other. And throughout lockdown, obviously, this has had a big impact on my work. So, been trying to navigate turning that meeting into a digital meeting and doing Zoom calls with them, and trying to figure out the best way to support this young person's isolation, really trying to support them in their building of friendships. So obviously that's been quite challenging. So today I'm here as a graphic facilitator. So I'm going to show you my graphic I've got prepared for you. I've put a little bit of Greek on there for you, just in case, so you know where you're in the right place. So yeah, off we go.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Let me just quickly say before we get started with the presentation. Σας καλησπέρισα και εξ ουσίας αυτό μίλησε για το ίδιο πράγμα που είπα και εγώ, για το πώς μπορούμε στα πλαίσια του ότι εξακολουθούμε και είμαστε σε lockdown να σπάσουμε την απομόνωση των παιδιών. Και το άλλο σημείο που ήθελα να κρατήσω από αυτά που είπε ο Colin είναι ότι η απομόνωση και το αίσθημα της μοναξιάς συνδέεται με εκνευρισμό στα παιδιά, και όσο τα παιδιά εκνευρίζονται, εμείς τόσο το λαμβάνουμε αυτό, οπότε βλέπουμε πώς λειτουργεί και σαν φαύλος κύκλος. Είναι και οι δύο εκπαιδευτικοί ψυχολόγοι, δουλεύουν στην Αγγλία, στο Νότιγχαμ, και ο Έλιοτ, η δουλειά του εστιάζει γύρω από το να βοηθάει τους νέους να δημιουργούν φιλίες, χρησιμοποιώντας μία μέθοδος που λέγεται κύκλος των φίλων, που την έχουμε χρησιμοποιήσει και εμείς εδώ στην Ελλάδα, και μας έλεγε πώς κατά τη διάρκεια της πανδημίας έχει δουλέψει και αυτό στο να γίνονται αυτές τις συναντήσεις μέσω Zoom διαδικτυακά και τα εμπόδια και τις δυσκολίες που μπορεί να έχει αυτό. Οπότε, Colin, please go ahead.
So, welcome. Just a few points before we get going on housekeeping.
So we are recording this session, I believe. I don't think it's been started yet, though. And we will use this again. So make sure you let us know if you don't want to be in the recording.
Oh, that's a good point, actually, isn't it? Sophia, are you recording the session? Or do you need to press the button?
Yes, I'm recording the session, but not through the Zoom platform. I'm using an external program.
Thank you. That explains it.
Thank you. So let's edit that bit out then. So we are going to be able to send you the replay afterwards, so you can watch this session back again at your leisure. If you could make sure you mute your mics unless speaking. We do have like 45 people right now, so just be aware of that. You're doing a great job though. The graphic that I'm recording will be sent out as well with the replay, so you can look at that and zoom in on it and put it on your bedroom wall. Okay.
Sorry, before we start, let me just say those points because they're important. Επειδή θα το μαγνητοσκοπήσουμε με το σκοπό να σας το στείλουμε και για να το χρησιμοποιήσουμε στην άκρη σε περαιτέρω εκπαιδεύσεις, όποιος δεν θα ήθελε να φανεί, να έχει την κάμερα του κλειστή, και επίσης ότι το βίντεο θα είναι διαθέσιμο για να σας το στείλουμε μετά την πραγματοποίηση του σεμιναρίου, καθώς και το γραφικό που θα δημιουργήσει ο Έλιος. Okay, go ahead.
So, well, one way, of course, interrupting isolation is to keep in touch with one another. And social media, of course, was kind of invented for that, really. So many of us have been using social media through the lockdown for ourselves. And when we can safely do this, obviously, we can involve children and young people in this. At Inclusive Solutions, we put something out every day on these different platforms. So we post on Facebook, if you just simply search for Inclusive Solutions. On Twitter, anybody wants to tweet tonight, that'd be fantastic. We're at IncSouls. We'd love it if you did that. You'll find us on Instagram. You'll find Elliot and myself both individually on LinkedIn. And if you love this at the end, obviously a review on Google or Trustpilot would be fabulous. Thank you so much, Krista. So do this as we're going through the session. If anything that interests you, put it out there, share it.
So we do have all of our training now available online on a website called Teachable. And we've spent a long time doing this over this past course of this year, and creating some really, really high quality resources online for you to access at your own pace. So you don't have to do it at a specific time. You can just come back to it whenever you have time. I know obviously you guys are juggling parenting with work, and you know, there's a lot to learn, but there's not a lot of time to learn it. So yeah, this should be a good for some of you.
We kind of thought when the children were in bed, this might be a time you might want to learn some other strategies, some other ideas, if they ever sleep, of course. Now, just a couple of ground rules. If you were with us last night, you know how important this is. Right, here we go.
So Colin was going to demonstrate our beautiful judge's wig, which in the UK our judges wear in the courtroom as they look down their nose and wave their finger at you and say mean things to you. So we do this to each other all the time. Every time we step into a room, we have our judge's wig on our head and we judge people around us. So we got to think about that. We got to be aware of this today, because we might be talking about something that's quite emotional or quite deep. So we need to take our judges' wigs off and keep them under our chair until after the session is over. So we're going to take our judges' wigs. So if you could all grab yours, go on, grab your head, grab your wig. And then after three.
Translate. So people understand why you're touching your head.
Yes.
Λοιπόν, λέει ότι ο πρώτος κανόνας είναι να μην κρίνουμε και να βγάλουμε περούκα του δικαστή, όπως φόραγαν τα παλιά στην Αγγλία, γιατί επειδή θα συζητήσουμε κάποια θέματα που μπορεί να έχουν πιο συναισθηματικό περιεχόμενο, να μας προκαλέσουν έτσι έντονα συναισθήματα, είναι σημαντικό να έχουμε το νου μας ότι είναι καλό να μην κρίνουμε και να μην δικαστές, ότι δεν έχουμε έρθει να κάνουμε. Οπότε βγάζουμε την περούκα μας, είναι η κίνηση αυτή που βλέπουμε.
Okay, go on. Yeah. Grab your judge's wigs then. Let me see you grab him. Go on. George. Okay, so we're going to, after three, we're going to remove it. So 1, 2, 3. Whoa! There you go. Feels a lot better in this room now, doesn't it? Feels a lot more free.
Right there.
Okay.
And you know, there's no worse job than being a parent than feeling judged, is there really? Some of us feel guilty very early on as parents. Others of us gather feelings of shame and guilt as the children kind of grow up. And in difficult times, like this lockdown, it makes it extra hard to do a good job being a parent, let alone trying to teach our children as well, and these extra expectations that are being laid on us. So that's one of the big reasons we're trying to take off the judge's wig. We are not judging you. We don't want you to judge us, but don't judge yourselves. Not helpful.
Ναι, το να μην είμαστε κριτές και να μην κρίνουμε αυστηρά και τον εαυτό μας, όπως ξέρουμε πολύ καλά όλοι οι γονείς, όλοι έχουν πολύ συχνά ισχυρές απαιτήσεις και κρίνουμε πολύ εύκολα τους άλλους, αλλά αυτό δεν είναι το νόημα εδώ πέρα.
So one more thing we need to be aware of is you look after your mental health today. So if you're talking about something that's got you emotional and you need to step away from the camera for 5 minutes, that's okay, that's fine, as long as you come back afterwards. Or just look after yourself, basically.
Να έχουμε λίγο στον εαυτό μας και άμα δούμε ότι έχουμε έντονα συναισθήματα και χρειαζόμαστε ένα μικρό διάλειμμα, δεν υπάρχει πρόβλημα, μπορείτε να το κάνετε.
It's also helpful for us, the more people who have their video showing, so we can see how you're responding to what we're talking about. So thank you to those people who've got their videos running, if you have video on your computer, but the more people who can, the better. Thank you for that. All right, so I wonder if we could ask somebody to read this for us. Katerina, could you perhaps read it in Greek for us, please?
Εδώ πέρα είναι μία προσευχή των Ινδιάνων Μόχοκ που λέει ότι επειδή είμαστε άνθρωποι θα κάνουμε λάθη. Δεν θα τα κάνουμε όλα σωστά και θα κάνουμε και παραλήψεις. Οπότε ζητάμε προκαταβολικά τη συμφόρησή σας.
So we're asking for your forgiveness. We're human. Elliot and I could easily screw up today. But also we're encouraging you to forgive yourselves and your children and young people. We're in a very, very difficult time here. People will make mistakes. This is very hard. You're just finding your way through here. So forgive yourself. Do try and forgive yourself.
Να συγχωρούμε ο ένας τον άλλον και τον εαυτό μας και τα παιδιά μας, γιατί μέσα στη δύσκολη συνθήκη αυτή που ζούμε θα συμβαίνουν και λάθη και παραλήψεις.
If any of you have teenagers at home, you may need extra forgiveness.
Ειδικά άμα έχουμε έφηβους στο σπίτι.
They're tough years. So what we thought we would do before we share any of our ideas about interrupting isolation, we thought we'd ask you what you know already, because you'll have been working on this during lockdown. Your young people would have been demanding it, so you will have had to be working very hard on trying to keep their lives connected and alive. So we'd like to ask you what you know already about interrupting the isolation that your children and young people have been experiencing. And how we're going to do this, we're going to put you into breakout rooms in small groups. We'd like you to discuss what you know already and agree one person in the group who will feed back to the main group what your ideas were.
Ωραία, οπότε για να συζητήσουμε πριν μας πούνε τις ιδέες τους, θα ξεκινήσουμε από το τι ξέρετε ήδη και τι εφαρμόζετε ήδη για να διακόψουμε την απομόνωση και θα χωριστούμε σε κάποια δωμάτια, σε μικρότερες ομάδες, έτσι ώστε να συζητήσει η κάθε ομάδα τις ιδέες και να επιλέξετε έναν ο οποίος μετά θα μεταφέρει τις ιδέες σε όλους.
Okay. So we're going into the rooms. I'm opening the rooms up. We'll just give you a good 5 minutes. So keep focused on the subject. What have you learned? And we'll call you back in 5 minutes. So just join the room and then we'll call you back in 5.
Και να υπενθυμίσουμε τις κάμερές σας κλειστές για τεχνικούς λόγους. Σας ευχαριστώ.
You're right.
Yes.
Good. I was thinking you're not getting, you know, what you were saying there reminded me about the Holly story. Where can we get the Holly story in?
That's what I'm thinking. We need to smush it in.
We need to smush it in. I know. Where could it go? Reaching out to friends. A bit more than that, isn't it?
Oh, just the idea of circle of friends, isn't it? We need to put that in.
Mm-hmm.
If you got a photo you can drag in.
Yeah, must have something, mustn't I? I'll get a picture of Holly in, maybe.
Yeah.
Will that work, do you think?
Mm-hmm.
Well, she's much younger, that's any trouble.
That's all right.
Yeah,
these subtitles are amazing, aren't they?
I can't see them actually. I must have not have the setting on or something. Do I need to switch it on, perhaps?
Yeah, it's called closed captioning.
Yeah, yeah.
Is anybody on their own in the rooms?
And I've checked that.
There's a lot of people that don't want to go in the room, isn't it?
Yeah, there is, you're right. Oh, I've got some rogue people here. Let me just pop them in. Some people just... Must be late arrivals. Right, I'll put a couple of slides in. So it just says circle of friends, picture of the book, and then a picture of Holly. That'll be a prompt.
Yeah.
And Sophia's saying people can't share the video because of technical issues.
Which video? The cameras, you mean?
Yeah, the cameras.
Yes, we prefer to keep our cameras off because of some technical reasons. It's better.
For the connection.
Yes, yeah.
Keeps a stronger connection, does it?
Due to bad connection sometimes.
Yeah. If everybody's using the video, it weakens it, I suppose. Yeah, that makes sense.
So we can start when you're ready, of course.
Yeah, I think we'll bring it back now. I think that was 5 minutes, don't you?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I'm bringing people back.
Okay.
Discussed is, I think, what the majority of the people are doing around the world, not rocket science.
Sure.
For the older kids, a few walks outside with their friends.
Sure.
In the open air. And for the younger one, rarely a play date in the garden, but very cautiously, let's say.
Cautiously, yeah. Cautious play dates.
And of course, much more, as you said, social media for the older ones. The rules don't apply now. Everybody has bended the rules, let's say, and has allowed a bit more time.
So more time on the social media, less restriction on that. That's interesting. Yeah. And when you say older ones, what age are you thinking, Chris?
So I was talking for mine that they are 13 and 11.
Okay, yeah.
They're the pre-teenager ones, and my younger one, which is 6, obviously cannot go alone for a walk, so they meet with a friend in the garden, something like that.
Sure.
With our neighbors, yes.
Okay, thank you. Evaristo? Right, room 2, and that was Eleni, Evie, Katerina herself, Nadia, Rula, and Yanis. Who was going to feedback?
Good evening, and today, as the spokesman from this group, we agreed that although we don't encourage to have communication through Viber or WhatsApp or Skype, in order to not be in front of the screen for longer hours, we encourage them to make some telephone calls to their friends and speak to them.
Sure.
However, the age is 6 to 9, that it's the age our kids are. They are reluctant to do that. They are not very enthusiastic about talking on the phone. and they prefer going out and play. They are very energetic. They have a lot of
energy.
Yeah, energy. Yes, and they want to say that on the road. So what we have done is we have some informal agreements with the neighbor who are the same age.
Yes.
And they play in the dead end in the road, on the street. There is a dead end, so there is not many people outside there.
Sure.
And we know that we don't socialize with someone else. They do the same also. And we are a bit on the safe side.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
That's it.
Thank you.
Sorry, and the last one, Mrs. Rula, what Mrs. Rula said is a walk on the woods.
A walk in the woods.
Yes, alone with no one else.
Sure. Just walking in the woods. Evaristo, thank you. Thank you, Jans, that's fabulous. Now, how about room 3? That was Miltos, Sophia, and Mapia. Who was going to feedback there?
I can give you a feedback if there's no problem.
Evaristo.
All right. The comments are quite similar to room 1 and room 2. We discussed for 2 different kids, one 7-year-old and one at 11 years old. They feel they seem to feel sorry for the whole situation. The older child is happy with some extra time on using the computer and messaging for contacting his friends, and the younger child, my daughter actually, he doesn't like much to go out, although he meets one of her friends costly again during the weekend. However, he doesn't like much to go out, and he spends a lot of her time on playing with the mobile phone or the tablet.
Sure. Evaristo, Miltos, Evaristo. And how about room 4? That was Constantina, Orula, and some other names that I can't pronounce, Katerina, but I don't think you can help me on this. Who was with Constantina and Rula?
I can't see the rooms, so...
Oh, Iona and...
I can't see.
Okay, we'll give that group a miss. How about group 5? That was Anta, Constantina, Konstantinos, Rebecca. Who'd like to feedback from room 5?
I'm not sure about the group 4. We were just...
yes, Constantina. Yeah, your group 4, absolutely.
Really? Okay.
And beautiful roses, by the way. Yeah, beautiful roses.
So much. So let's start. We discussed, we were just me and Ifigenia, another lady. So we discussed about the importance of communication, verbal communication, and meaningful communication. I mean, not just, oh, hey, how are you doing? What's up? What's going on? But how do you feel?
Yeah, going deeper. Yeah. quick communication, just lightweight, but going deeper.
Going deeper, exactly. That's what I mean, meaningful.
I like it.
We discussed about the importance of creating some sort of routines, daily routines. So, for example, brush the teeth together. No, that's a fun example. Or go out for a walk, and or have, let's say, let's make a juice together. So you chop the fruits and I do the shaking. I do. Yes. So make a juice, for example, or make a meal of a day together with the parent or with the siblings together. If there are any siblings or parents. What else we discussed? We discussed about having some outdoor activities together with the parents, walking, yes, playing outside, and all of those interactive as well, and with a deep communication. I think that's what we agreed on. Thank you.
Yeah, ευχαριστώ. Καλά.
Welcome.
And let's bring in that next group, room 5. That was Anta, Konstantina, Konstantinos, and Rebecca, who was going to feedback from that group. Perhaps nobody on that group. Oh, let's move to the next group. That was room 6. Eleni, Elia, FS, Ira, Maria, and Olga.
Hello, I'm Ira. I think I'm gonna do the talking.
Please do.
I have twins. They are 10 years old. And we have a daily routine. We have everyday outdoor activities, such as walking or cycling. We also have a bubble with another family that has 3 children. And we have decided to meet twice a week and play football all together. That's very important for my children to have a bubble. So we feel safer that way.
Sure.
We only see one family. And another thing we do is that my children talk to their grandparents and cousins and friends every day through FaceTime or WhatsApp. And I also allow them for the first time in their life to play online games. Online games are allowed. Yes. Because it's a difficult time and they have to interact with their friends. Absolutely. They have to see their friends, they have to talk to them. Even meaningful talking, as another mom said.
Yeah.
They have to feel that their friends are there for them and they play together even that way.
Absolutely.
And yes, another mom said that they like to tease each other because she has 4 children. So that's one funny way to feel that they are not alone. And another judge said that they listen to music. And that's, yes, they listen to music every day and that's their way.
Yeah. The feeling connected.
Yes.
Yeah, I like it. Evaristo.
Yes,
really
thank you.
Really great ideas there. Yeah, thank you so much.
Sorry for having my camera off, but that's why we are asked for.
Don't you worry.
To have the cameras off. It's easier that way, they said. Thank you.
Evaristo. I'm not going to go to every group now. I'm just going to jump to the last 2 groups. So room 9, that was Agris, Evangelia, George, Maria, Theoni. Who was going to feedback?
Hello, I'm George.
Hi, George.
I've spoken with one lady, the wife of Argyris Eleni, and what I have to say is that in the younger age, my daughter is 8 years old. We cannot go on with any more online because it is already too much online from the morning until 3.5. So even we have tried and it was a completely mess. Well, I tried giving her to access to Skype, and she nearly broke up with her friends. So I raised it, and what we do, I don't care if it's risky or what, is to keep a bubble with other two families, just the same two families, 1 year now. So every Saturday, we go to one of the three houses, our home or to the other two families. That's all, no more.
So you've got to stretch the law a bit, have you, George, to make that possible?
Yes, stretch it.
Stretched it, yeah. Thank you, George, Evaristo. And let's bring in room 8. Room 8, and that was Eleanor, Callie, Maria, the other Maria, Calistini. Anybody from that group want to feedback?
Eleanor, would you like to speak?
Good evening.
Okay.
We were 4 in the room, but I only heard a lady. I don't know why. We spoke about our children.
Okay.
She has an only child, 4.5 boy, and I have an only child, a girl, a daughter. She's 14 years old.
14.
We are in different ways, as you understand. She said that her boy, with her boy is a little bit easier. After lessons every day, they play with the other boys through cameras with their toys, and sometimes they go to play outside, and he's okay with that, and it's not so difficult, she thinks.
Sure.
But on my way to our flat, it's not so easy. I work every day, and my husband too. My daughter is alone at home until 5.5 at least. We talk on the telephone 10 times a day. She thinks that the lessons it's not so important, that she don't have the right knowledge, and she plays violin for 8 years now, and she is very sad about that the lessons by internet, it's not so good.
No.
It's very important for her, the instrument. And it is a very important problem for her.
Sure.
But I also, I find out that she has many fears since last year.
Sure.
And especially at night. And her feelings, it's not so balanced. Sometimes.
Sure. Anxiety.
It's not an angry girl, or has a very nice teenager.
Sure.
But I don't know. I think that it's all this.
Yeah, it will be, won't it? Sounds like building anxieties and worries, doesn't it? They're just coming to her in the night as well.
And of course, the isolated, we live outskirts of Thessaloniki. And we don't have it's not easy for us to go out and see another friend.
No.
So it's not so good period for us.
Sure, sounds very hard. Very hard. Yeah, very hard. Evaristo, very hard. And I think you're just reminding, what many parents will be thinking today, just how hard and impossible this is really to do much about this. But thank you for sharing those words there. And Rebecca had also shared from room 6, actually put it in the chat. Working with our pupils, with teachers, is already a way to break isolation, especially during courses like literature with older children in the high school, and young children as young as 5 years old, loving to interact during long 20-minute breaks. Also trying to communicate outside the house, not only work stuff, but also play. Yeah, Evaristo, Rebecca. Yeah, that's very helpful. Very helpful. Right. Well, that was we thought you would know a lot of things here, and you would have a lot of wisdom, and we weren't wrong there. There's some very rich ideas there, really. You almost don't need our ideas. It's so rich what you've shared there. But we will obviously share our own thoughts. But Elliot, what can I ask? What you heard? Did you listen to that? What were
there's quite a few people saying utilizing technology. So whether that was the social media and allowing their children to have a little bit more time on social media than usual, even allowing them to play on online games and communicate with their friends online whilst playing games together. But a lot of people were talking about going outside, doing activities together, even as a family, or whether it's just letting them play outside with their friends, or doing other things together, like making food together or making juice together and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely any reason or excuse to interact with someone right now is really important. And it sounds like you guys have been utilizing that. And so I've just picked out the things here that are the positive things that we've learned, and not necessarily the negative things that we are dealing with right now. So I'm just trying to be sort of selective.
Yeah, that's helpful. And if you're watching this and listening, and you hear an idea and you think, "Well, I hadn't thought of that," use this idea. Use this idea, because we're learning from each other here, aren't we? Really, we're learning from each other.
Give me one second just to check.
Of course.
Ήταν αρκετό κομμάτι τώρα που ήταν όλο στα αγγλικά. Υπάρχει κάποιος που θα ήθελε μια επιπλέον επεξήγηση σε κάτι από αυτά που υπόθηκαν από όλες τις ομάδες στα ελληνικά? Αν είμαστε εντάξει και παρακολουθούμε, να συνεχίσουμε να δούμε. Νομίζω λίγο πολύ όλοι τα ίδια πράγματα κάνουμε. Να δούμε μήπως μας δώσουν και καθόλου επιπλέον ιδέες. Okay, Colin, go ahead.
First off. So this is kind of what we know. This is what you've learned over this really difficult period. And you're still learning, I guess, as we kind of go. So that was really helpful start there. And what we'd like to do now, this is what you've learned. I think we might need to do a bit of muting there. I think somebody's still left on. Yanis, can you help us with a bit of muting, please? So let's get started on this. I wonder if you could just read this, Katerina, in Greek, please.
Yes. Λοιπόν, λέει ότι πόσο δύσκολο είναι η σου. Και εδώ είναι διαφορετικοί τρόποι που χρησιμοποίησαν τα παιδιά για να αισθανθούν συνδεδεμένα και έτσι να μοιραστούν με άλλα παιδιά, αφήνοντας ένα μήνυμα ή μία ζωγραφιά, μιλώντας στη κάμερα, κολλώντας πράγματα στα παράθυρα, μαγνητάκια, ανάλογα τι κάθε να φτιάξει.
Yes. So this is the nice idea of encouraging your children to write a message of solidarity they can share with other children, with other young people in their situation. And in the UK, there's been a big thing about displaying the messages in the window of the home. But obviously you can go further with this. You can share the messages using technology or however you want to send them. It's a bit like letter writing in a way, old-fashioned letter writing, but sharing these messages of support. It could be done in poetry or as a rap or as a kind of piece of prose, just something, to share the struggle with other friends and then find ways of sharing that. So that seems a lovely idea for starters as we kind of getting into this. The next piece, of course, is thinking about shared interests, which, in normal times, the young people will be getting together and they would be sharing their, they'd be playing football together, they'd be playing their violin together with other musicians, they'd be doing those things. But obviously we can't do it in the same way when we're locked down. So it's trying to find ways of still sharing the interest, but not in such a direct, physically, we're in the same space kind of way. So this is the challenge, really. So we don't want to discourage the child from their interest. We still want to nurture that interest in them, but trying to find creative ways of keeping the interest going, really, keeping the interest going. So for instance, myself, I'm a trombone player. I've found myself playing along with music, pre-recorded music, so I get the kind of sense that I'm almost connected, but I can keep my interest in the trombone going as long as there's other music playing. That keeps that sense of connection.
Okay, give me a minute.
Sure.
Το κομμάτι εδώ έχει να κάνει με τα ενδιαφέροντα και το πώς πρέπει να τροποποιήσουμε τώρα αυτό που κάνουμε, έτσι ώστε να μην χάσει το παιδί και ο νέος όποιο ενδιαφέρον ή χόμπι είχε, ακόμα και στις συνθήκες που δεν μπορεί να το εξασκήσει ακριβώς ή να το μοιραστεί ακριβώς με τον ίδιο τρόπο, αλλά να βρίσκουμε άλλους τρόπους που να προσομοιάζουν κατά κάποιο τρόπο τις συνθήκες και να επιτρέπουν αυτό το μοίρασμα και τη συμμετοχή στο ενδιαφέρον. Okay, go ahead.
So, for instance, one game that you can play online as well as physically face-to-face, and some young people really get into this game, is called Dungeons and Dragons. Are you aware of it? Is this a game that many young people would enjoy this increase as well? And it can go on and on. It's not very competitive. It's kind of got it goes on forever, it seems to me. Elliot, you were working with a disabled young man, weren't you? You loved this game.
Yeah. So he was someone who had a few friends inside school, but they didn't really see each other that much outside school. So one of the things they decided to do together as friends was to go to play Dungeons and Dragons together. So they were able to do it in real life before lockdown. And it's a game where it's really collaborative. You're like a team and you're in this imaginary world and you have to defeat, dragons and ogres and trolls and these big beasts that you have to destroy as a team collectively. So it's really, really fun to play together and it's an ongoing thing. So it doesn't finish. So you will say, all right, let's play for, 3 hours now, and then we'll play for another 3 hours next week. So it never ends. It's continuous. So that's what's good about this game, because it keeps the young people coming back for more and it forges their friendships in a really solid way. So I recommend it. It's a good game. It's fun to play.
Ότι παιχνίδια όπως αυτό που δείχνουν εδώ είναι παιχνίδια τα οποία υπάρχουν και φυσικά και online. Είναι παιχνίδια όμως που περιέχουν το κομμάτι της συνεργασίας και της συνέχειας, έτσι ώστε μπορεί κάποιος να αφιερώσει κάθε εβδομάδα ένα συγκεκριμένο χρονικό διάστημα σε αυτά. Go ahead.
There's also, as people have already mentioned, the kind of being a bit more generous about letting our children and young people really absorb themselves in the world of gaming, in perhaps a way we wouldn't usually do, because some gaming comes with communication, ways of communicating built into it, doesn't it, Elliot? You know a lot about this, especially with interest in gaming, I would say.
Get your children a headset with a microphone so they can talk to their friends. If they haven't already got one, it's like €20, and it's a very useful piece of technology. So if you are allowing them to play video games online, they can be quite collaborative and team-based, skill-based, logic-based gaming. Especially if they play something like Minecraft. It's not really like a violent game, it's more about construction. So but equally any type of video gaming where they're interacting with their friends, we're looking for excuses to interact with anyone, and this is a really good opportunity for young people to interact with each other in a friendly, productive way. So I would definitely recommend it, and go easy on them. It's not a difficult time. It is a difficult time, so they probably want to just take a load off and enjoy themselves. So this is a great way to do that.
So apart from Minecraft, Elliot, any others you'd recommend?
It depends how old they are. I don't know any other kids' games, but playing football games like FIFA, sports games, that would be quite a good one. I know a lot of young people play like Fortnite and Call of Duty, and that's what I play, and it is very difficult to play, and it's like you have to be strategic and you have to think about what you're doing together as a team. So I have found that got me through lockdown, talking to my friends, playing that together, and that's what helped me survive basically.
Οπότε είναι παιχνίδια στρατηγικής και συνεργασίας για όσους το επιτρέπουν στα παιδιά, με το σκεπτικό ότι είναι και μια εφορμή για επικοινωνία.
Obviously observing the age limits on these games, of course. Now, there is an approach that we've spent a lot of time developing over the years called creating a circle of friends around a child. And the approach kind of was developed around children who are very isolated, usually because of their disability, for instance, their autism or their cerebral palsy or their severe learning problem. But we also use it around children with the most challenging behavior. And essentially, it was the idea of building a team of children around one child. Now, that was done physically in pre-lockdown times. Most of the work was done in schools. But obviously, we can't do that. We can't physically gather children around in a circle around one child who's particularly challenging or very needy. But we have found that it is possible to do this remotely, and Elliot's been involved in leading on some of that with a young person we've been working on. If you wanted to read more about it, just go to our website and look for anything on creating circles of friends.
Αυτή είναι και αυτή η μέθοδος που σας είπαμε πριν, ο κύκλος των φίλων, που χρησιμοποιείται συχνά με παιδιά με αυτισμό, με δύσκολη συμπεριφορά, είτε με άλλες δυσκολίες, παιδιά που υπό νορμάλες συνθήκες θα ήταν στο περιθώριο και στην απομόνωση. Και το έχουν προσαρμόσει τώρα και σε συνθήκες που δεν γίνεται στο φυσικό περιβάλλον, στο σχολείο, όπως θα γινόταν. Okay.
And in previous years, we have offered training, haven't we, in Greece, Katerina, on this very theme. So we know people in Greece understand this approach, and it is a lovely way of working. And if your own child is very isolated because of their behaviour or their disability, quite apart from lockdown, as soon as lockdown ends, this would be a good place to look at. But if they have got some sense of connection, or you thought you could, on their behalf, reach out and connect maybe through their parents to the young people, and you can get a kind of virtual circle of friends around your young person, it's interesting to think what it might look like. So I'm going to ask Elliot to share his experience of the work he's done around a young woman who doesn't speak, who doesn't use her language at all, and who uses a wheelchair. She already had a physical circle of friends, but he's been able to carry on with the circle during lockdown. Do you want to tell us about it, Elliot? This young woman.
Yeah, so they initially started in school. We had weekly, regular every week meetings with a big graphic on paper, and we talked about what's going well, what's not going well, and ideas. So we set sort of actions based on these ideas of what we're going to do differently this week. So every week they were trying new things out, and they were having a really good time in school together and getting to know each other. And actually, what I was focusing on with them was doing stuff outside school together. So we went on a cruise on a little boat down the canal, and they went on a shopping trip together. They've been for meals at restaurants, and this type of thing, stuff that young teenage girls just do anyway, but that she doesn't usually get a chance to do because she finds it difficult to make friends because she can't communicate in the same way that we do. So she uses a letterboard. So she was typing out words, which meant she had to be with an adult who could facilitate that for her. So that became a bit problematic. So that's why we set up this circle of friends around us, to have some time with her peers where they could just be with each other and didn't need to worry about the adults. All the adults in the room they knew really well and they got along with, so they didn't become a barrier. But now as we move in online, it's difficult because there was a big break in between when we had our first digital meeting and when we had our last meeting in real life. So there was such a long break that some of the young people haven't showed up since we've come back online. So hopefully we'll get all of those young people back again, and we'll get the full team that we had before. And then as we start to go back into school, we'll keep building on it, and we're thinking about recruiting some new people for it now. And then we'll start thinking about when the shop's open, when everything's open again, we'll try and plan some activities together that everyone's interested in, maybe going to the cinema or something like that. So that's what
Can I ask, Elliot, when you're doing it virtually, what the process you kind of go through with the young people? What kind of questions you ask?
I'm just basing it on whatever's necessary at the time. So last time I did it, I asked them what's changed. So what's changed since we started doing this? And what would you want to see for Holly in the future? That kind of question. Or just actions. Usually the theme that I usually go with is what's going well and what's not going well.
Yeah.
That's a really good question to ask young people, because they come up with the answers for themselves. It's not me saying to them, oh, what you should do is this. No, they're saying, I think we should do this. And then they do it because it's their idea. That's the beauty and the power of this.
Interrupt to summarize up to this point. Η ιδέα αυτή είναι ότι δημιουργείται μια ομάδα γύρω από ένα παιδί που αντιμετωπίζει μια δυσκολία, όχι απαραίτητα ένα παιδί το οποίο έχει κάποιο θέμα το ίδιο, και μετά ο ενήλικας βοηθάει τα υπόλοιπα παιδιά να σκεφτούν τι πάει καλά και τι δεν πάει καλά και πώς μπορούν τα ίδια να στηρίξουν το παιδί γύρω από το οποίο έχει δημιουργηθεί αυτή η ομάδα, και ότι ανάλογα με το τι θέλει και το κάθε παιδί και το τι ιδέες έρχονται, το κάθε παιδί ή όλη η ομάδα συμμετέχει σε διαφορετικά πράγματα. Αυτό, ας πούμε, εγώ τώρα που μου έρχεται έτσι για να το συνδέσω και με αυτά που συζητάμε, ίσως θα ήταν ένα καλό διάμεσο βήμα όταν ανοίξουν τα σχολεία, γιατί σίγουρα μπορεί να υπάρχουν παιδιά τα οποία θα δυσκολευτούν με την προσαρμογή, οπότε θα μπορούσαν να δημιουργηθούν τέτοιου είδους ομαδούλες γύρω από κάποια παιδιά τα οποία θα έχουν ένα παραπάνω άγχος ή δεν θα ενσωματωθούν κατευθείαν πίσω στις παρέες τους, όπως όταν λειτουργούσαν τα σχολεία. Ίσως θα ήταν χρήσιμο σε αυτό το σημείο. Let me just say, Colin, I was just saying how maybe Circle of Friends can be also useful when the schools reopen for some children who are not going to adjust straight away and fit in straight away to where they left off after being away from.
Yes, good one, Katerina. Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's also interesting it just makes me think as well, the real experts around interrupting isolation are actually disabled adults and parents of disabled children, because they know this world very, very clearly. Quite apart from lockdown, we've all had to kind of catch up, but they already know the challenge of isolation for their young person and what they actively have to do to break into that isolation, or the things they have to do to intentionally build relationships and friendship around their often lonely child or young person. So if you know a parent of a disabled child, you ask them for some of their advice.
That's a very good point. Να πω αυτό το σημείο που λέει ότι επειδή οι γονείς των παιδιών με ειδικές ανάγκες ή αναπηρίες και τα ίδια τα άτομα με αναπηρία έχουν ζήσει αυτό το κομμάτι της απομόνωσης και της μοναξιάς στο πετσί τους, όχι μόνο τώρα στο lockdown, αλλά γενικά, ότι είναι χρήσιμες πηγές για να πάρουμε και έμπνευση και ιδέες για το πώς μπορούμε να σπάσουμε την μοναξιά και την απομόνωση των παιδιών.
Elliot, anything else you wanted to add on that story?
No. There was a couple of other circles that I've run over the years, though, but they've all got to be managed really, really carefully. So when you are doing it, be careful about just going into this without thinking about it. You need supervision. If you're going to be facilitating these meetings, make sure you've got someone experienced to talk to about it, because there's going to be conflict, there's going to be politics, and you need to be able to handle all that, because you are creating a group, and any groups there's politics, and especially teenage girls, they can be really horrible to each other. So we've had people come and go, fall out with each other, and that's part of it. But I guess that's part of friendship, isn't it? It's part of growing up, and they have to learn these lessons at some point. So yeah, it's really useful and really interesting.
Challenging relationships. Could we perhaps have a look at the graphic at this point, Elliot, please?
Yeah, let me have a look. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, we'll just see where we're up to at this point, and because probably we're coming up to a good point for a little break here. So you can see what Elliot's doing there. He's gathered what you know already, and he started to reveal the kind of ideas we're attempting to share with you, really. Just some leading ideas. If you just got one idea out of this session this evening that you could use with your children and young people, wouldn't it? It would be worthwhile coming, wouldn't it, really? So that's kind of what we're pitching for.
All right.
So, Katerina, do you want to just, what we're suggesting is we now have a 5-minute break. So we'll see everybody back at 5:10, and we'll pick up where we left off.
Ωραία, κάνουμε λοιπόν ένα 5 λεπτό διάλειμμα. Προτού φύγετε από τις θέσεις σας, να πούμε ότι έχει προγραμματιστεί για την ερχόμενη εβδομάδα, για την 3η 6 Απριλίου, ίδια ώρα, 6 με 8, μία έξτρα συνάντηση με τον Κόλιν και τον Έλιοτ Νιούτον, όπως σας είπαμε και χθες, η οποία θα είναι ουσιαστικά μία ανοιχτή συζήτηση, με απορίες και σχόλια δικά σας προς εκείνους. Στο chat θα σας αφήσω το email του Ιδρύματος που μπορείτε να στέλνετε τα ερωτήματά σας μέχρι την ερχόμενη εβδομάδα, είτε στα αγγλικά όποιος μπορεί ακόμα καλύτερα, είτε στα ελληνικά, για να τους τα στείλουμε και να είμαστε προετοιμασμένοι. Οπότε μόλις επιστρέψετε από το διάλειμμα, τσεκάρετε το chat για λεπτομέρειες. Σας ευχαριστώ. Και επειδή ρωτάτε για το πόστερ που δείχνει τώρα ο κύριος Νιούτον, να σας πω ότι και το σημερινό και το χθεσινό θα σας τα στείλουμε. Είναι υλικό που θέλει να σας σταλεί ούτως ή άλλως, οπότε θα τα έχετε και στο email.
Okay. 5 minutes.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Είμαστε έτοιμοι.
Okie dokie. Right. So let's carry on.
Shall we start?
Yes, sorry, just had a technical issue there. Right, we're off. So we were just talking about circles of friends there. And we'd like just to press on with some other ideas, really. Now, quizzes have been very big in the UK. And we'd encourage you to consider doing something similar, really, thinking of your children, your young people, and using Zoom or something similar. Having teams, having individuals, just having some real fun. All you need is one person who's prepared to put the quiz together, really. You can really have some fun with this, really have some fun. Adults obviously love it, but children, young people too as well. Just make it kind of child-friendly.
Η ιδέα του να κάνουμε quiz ή κάποιο είδους διαγωνισμό. Και έτσι για πλάκα.
We also think it's a good time for considering not just broad interests, but what you might call specialist interests. Sometimes these are negatively called obsessions. And so we're thinking particularly children with autism, but not necessarily just children with autism. Many children and young people do have things they really, really get fascinated with. So we would say this is a good time to respect those specialist interests. And in fact, see where you might take them, where they might develop them further, who also might share the specialist interest. Again, it's probably going to have to be online or in some kind of more indirect way. But yeah, supporting the child with that specialist interest.
Ναι, είναι εδώ πέρα για τα ειδικά ενδιαφέροντα ή τις αιμονές που μπορεί να έχουν κάποια παιδιά, είτε με αυτισμό, είτε και ευρύτερα, και πώς μπορούμε και να τα καλλιεργήσουμε αυτά και να βάλουμε τα παιδιά στη διαδικασία να τα μοιραστούν και με άλλους που μπορεί να μοιράζονται το ίδιο ενδιαφέρον.
And we know specialist interests come in many forms, don't they? There are people who love lighthouses. There are people who love ships. There are people who love a particular kind of sailing boat. There are people who are fascinated with certain cars. There are children who just like lettering in certain kind of forms. It can come in all kinds of forms. And Elliot, I know you've worked recently with a young man.
Yeah. He was really interested in empty cigarette boxes, which was a really, random choice of like interests. I almost said obsession, but I would prefer to use the word interest, because when we say obsession, it's kind of like a negative connotation, like he can't stop himself, like it's an impulsive thing. But he's just really interested in these things, and he really likes to find them. And he will go in bins to find empty cigarette boxes because he likes to read the labels. In the UK, we have these really terrifying cancer statements and warnings, health warnings on the packet, and he likes to read them. And he can tell you how to say smoking kills in any European language, which is now one of his little skills that he has. So it's kind of a unique thing to be interested in. So he's really good at it. He will go out and come back with 3 bags full, like 3 bigger plastic carrier bags full of empty cigarette boxes. And just because he's really interested in it, he'll go out of his way to find them. So that means he'll go in the bins, and he'll go in the gutters along the side of the road, and he'll go in bushes and places where the people won't want to go. So I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, how is this going to be useful in the community? How can we utilize this gift? Because I'm looking at this young person, I'm like, what's good about him? What's really good about him that would benefit somebody else? So he's actually a few times, on a few different occasions, because his eyes are so good, he's found money on the floor, and he's found someone's credit card, and he's handed it into the shopkeeper in the shop where it was found outside. He's found a £20 note. We were going on the bus, the top deck of a double-decker bus, going 30 miles an hour, and he's like, oh my God, Elliot, we need to get off the bus right now. We need to get off the bus. And we jumped off the bus, we ran back down the road about half a mile, and then he's found the little £20 note, which is folded up 3 times. So it's really small, and he's found it, and he's then gone and spent it on sweets and scratch cards, like lottery cards. So he went in somebody's bin and he found a big bag full of cash. And this is because he's looking for these cigarette boxes all the time, and he's got his eyes open and he's looking ahead. He's got eagle vision, yes, Giannis. So what I was like, how can we utilize this eagle vision? He's obviously got really good eyes, and there's got to be some use for this in society. And instead of being someone who just goes in bins and people look down on him, how can we make him someone who's, you know, looked up at? So we went to the golf course and we collected about 3,000 golf balls. We filled 2 big bin bags full of golf balls, and we took them back to the golf club and tried to sell them their own balls. And they obviously said, no, this is our property, but thank you, well done, well, good, nice try. So it was an interesting day. But when we think about this, usually ask people, what jobs do you think would be good for someone with eagle vision? Any professions you can think of?
Elliot, let me just transfer that point. Μιλάοντας λοιπόν για τα ενδιαφέροντα και τα ενδιαφέροντα, είχε το ενδιαφέρον του στο να συλλέγει άδεια κουτιά τσιγάρων και μέσω του ενδιαφέροντος αυτού του άρεσε τόσο πολύ που θα πήγαινε κουτίδια μέσα στους υπόνομους και θα μάζευε απίστευτες ποσότητες. Προσπαθούσε ο Έλιοτ να δει πώς τον πήρε το ενδιαφέρον αυτό να κάνει πίσω στην κοινωνία και αντί να τον κοροϊδεύει και να τον κυρίως, είναι κάποιος ο οποίος θα μπορούσε να τον θυμάζουν γι' αυτό.
Κυρία Λασκαρίδου, συγγνώμη, λίγο πιο κοντά στο μικρόφωνο σας, γιατί σας χάνουμε σε κάποια σημεία.
Τώρα
Ναι. Για προσπαθήστε πάλι.
Ωραία. Έλεγα λοιπόν ότι η ερώτηση που μας έκανε τώρα ο Έλιοτ είναι για κάποιον ο οποίος είχε αυτό το ενδιαφέρον, ο οποίο προσπάθησαν να το κάνουν από αρνητικό θετικό, επειδή εντόπιζε και πολύ εύκολα λεφτά και είχε πολύ καλή όραση, και μας έκανε την ερώτηση του ποιο επαγγελματικό κλάδο θα μπορούσε να απασχοληθεί ένας τέτοιος άνθρωπος με αυτό το ταλέντο.
Pilot. That's really good. You got to have good eyes to be a pilot. Anything else? Who needs to have really good vision? Policeman. He actually wants to be a policeman. A lifeguard.
Good one.
Very good. You got to see people drowning from far away, so that's a good idea, actually. You could actually do that.
Mm.
Any more? What about, someone said policeman, but what about when they do forensics, and they have to go through the grass, and they have to have a whole team of people going through the grass at the same time and scouting for, you know, bullets or fingerprints, something like that. Also, people usually say like CCTV operators, people who watch cameras all day, or people who look at code, CSI, yes, Ira. So someone who is looking at lines of code has got to spot mistakes, and you have to just be really meticulous. Sorry?
Microbiologist?
Yeah, microbiologist. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So now we've gone from someone who's, you know, looking in bins and he's looking like a homeless person. Now he's someone who's a microbiologist, you know. So we've just by looking at his gift and what he's good at and what's good about him, we're able to completely reframe the way we see him. So that's what we're trying to get to here, trying to help you think about this.
So at this time, you may be thinking about your own child, and you may be thinking, why do they keep doing that? That's just a mindless obsession. That means nothing, an empty obsession, just like the young man Elliot's telling us about. But turn it round, you know, where is this young person's gift, and where does that gift make sense in the world? Maybe it's not an empty obsession at all. Maybe it is actually revealing an amazing strength or skill they have in a different context. So this is a good time, really, for having a good look at what your children bring and seeing where it could make sense in the world. And then trying to make, because we're thinking tonight about interrupting isolation, thinking where that could make sense in the world and how they might connect up with anybody else who might at all have an interest in that gift.
So really, we're thinking about community, and we're talking about, you know, how every community's got places for people, and there's roles to fill in the community. When we get back to normal life, when we're allowed to actually socialize again, I think people are going to be really looking for that. They're going to be seeking those new connections with people who they live next door to, but they don't know. You know what I mean? So I think there'll be a lot more of that coming. But when we think about what they're good at, we think about how can that benefit someone in the community. So it was the golf course. We took him to the golf course and we collected all the balls for them. They were past the bottom of the driving range in the bushes where they don't actually collect the balls from because they are scared to get cuts on their legs. But he doesn't care about that. So he went in there, got all the cuts on his leg, and then brought all the balls back to them. So that's his part to play in the community. But every gift has somewhere for it to fit in the community. So it's not always about a job. What job you're going to do, what you're going to do for work. It's more about who's going to benefit from this and how can you help other people.
Exactly. So when you look at your own child, think about it, or your children or young people, try not to get so hooked on what's wrong with them and what's broken with them and what's difficult about them, especially in the intensity of lockdown, and try and turn that on its head and think more about, well, what are they bringing? What do they bring to the world? When this lockdown's over, what benefit can they offer the local community, people around them? Katerina, that's quite a bit there.
Yes. Λοιπόν, αυτό είναι ένα αρκετά σημαντικό σημείο και έχει να κάνει με το πώς πάλι μπορούμε να μετατρέψουμε κάτι αρνητικό σε κάτι θετικό, έτσι ώστε να μην σκεφτόμαστε τι πρόβλημα μας δημιουργεί, τι πρόβλημα έχει το παιδί, πόσο ζορίζεται το παιδί, αλλά πώς μπορούμε να χρησιμοποιήσουμε το χάρισμα του, την ικανότητά του για κάτι, σε κάτι θετικό και ίσως να πω και σαν γονείς ή σαν εκπαιδευτικοί να χρησιμοποιήσουμε αυτό το διάστημα με το να σκεφτούμε πώς μπορούμε να το συνδέσουμε μετά και να το κάνουμε κάτι θετικό και ένα κομμάτι σύνδεσης και με την κοινότητα και με τους φίλους, έτσι ώστε να υποφεληθούν περισσότεροι από αυτό και να γίνει μέσω αυτού ένα πλησίασμα του παιδιού προς τους υπόλοιπους.
Which brings us on to the next leading idea for you, which is the importance of you as the parent or carer maintaining empathy with your child and children, and also a sense of hope for the future. Because your children look at you and also they kind of need you to connect with them yourself and show empathy. In other words, you're trying to reach to them and trying to notice how they are feeling and acknowledge how they're feeling and respond to how they're feeling and listen to how they're feeling. Anything we can do to show empathy, using expressions like, sounds like you might be a bit angry today, or I'm wondering, or I'm curious if you're feeling very frustrated about not being able to see your friends right now. So deliberately reaching out and trying to name the feelings that may be in that child or young person. You might get it wrong. You're bound to get it wrong. Maybe they don't want to hear you asking those questions, but at least we need to try and reach out to them. And at the same time, holding that beacon of hope. You know, there is a future beyond lockdown, because they watch to us. If we seem very down and depressed all the time about the future, that's what they absorb, because children absorb from us like sponges.
Να το πω και αυτό γιατί είναι πάρα πολύ σημαντικό και νομίζω ότι είναι πολύ σημαντικό γιατί συχνά μπορεί να μην μπορούμε να κάνουμε πολλά πράγματα πρακτικά για να σπάσουμε αυτή την αίσθηση της απομόνωσης και της μοναξιάς, αλλά το κομμάτι του να δείξουμε και να ξεκινήσουμε τη δημιουργία συνδέσεων από την ίδια την οικογένεια και να χτίσουμε αυτό το κομμάτι της ενσυναίσθησης και του ενδιαφέροντος για το πώς αισθάνεται το παιδί, εκφράζοντας του και μια κατανόηση για το πόσο μπορεί να δυσκολεύεται που δεν βλέπει τους φίλους του, θέτοντας το είτε σαν παρατήρηση ότι βλέπω ότι σε δυσκολεύει πολύ ότι δεν μπορείς να δεις τους φίλους σου, είτε σαν ερώτημα. Και όπως είπε και ο Κόλιν, μπορεί να πέσουμε και έξω, λογικό είναι, μπορεί να τους νευριάσουμε ή να μην θέλουν να το συζητήσουμε, αλλά τουλάχιστον τους δείχνουμε ότι τους καταλαβαίνουμε και ενδιαφερόμαστε για αυτό που τους συμβαίνει. Και επίσης πολύ σημαντικό το να προσέχουμε πώς μεταφέρουμε τη δική μας διάθεση και το δικό μας αρνητικό συναίσθημα και τη δική μας απελπισία και απόγνωση, γιατί τα παιδιά το απορροφούν αυτό και συχνά το μεταδίδουν και οι ίδιοι. Οπότε πρέπει εμείς να είμαστε αυτοί που θα τους μεταφέρουμε το μήνυμα της ελπίδας ότι όσο χάλια και να είναι τα πράγματα, κάποια στιγμή θα τελειώσει και να μην χάνουμε το κουράγιο και την ελπίδα μας. Go ahead, Colin.
So now we're thinking about the next building block being so important, and this was mentioned so early on amongst many of you, the importance of communication, really. If we genuinely want to interrupt isolation and loneliness for our children and young people, anything we can do that maximizes their communication, the better, really. Even if it's ways we kind of wish they didn't do, like on the back of gaming, maybe that you're not comfortable with that, or the use of social media approaches, maybe you're not comfortable with that either. But if that's the way the child can communicate with another child, or a young person with another young person, then we need to do it. If it's waving out of a window, if it's creating a sign or a message you can put in a window, or that can be posted in the postal system, any of these, anything that brings out communication, because we know communication is fundamental to being a human being, fundamental to relationships within families, but also, you know, beyond families in the world of friendship and relationship. So anything we can do to maximize communication is going to be super, super important.
Να πω και αυτό ότι επειδή το κομμάτι της επικοινωνίας και της ανθρώπινης επικοινωνίας είναι στοιχειώδες και απόλυτα συνυφασμένο με την ανθρώπινη ύπαρξη, το νόημα είναι ότι οτιδήποτε μπορούμε να κάνουμε στο να ενισχύσουμε την επικοινωνία του παιδιού με τρίτους, ανάλογα και με το τι είναι πιο ταιριαστό για το κάθε παιδί και για την κάθε οικογένεια, ακόμα και άμα παραβαίνει τους κανόνες που θα είχαμε υπό άλλες συνθήκες, θα πρέπει να προσπαθήσουμε να το κάνουμε αυτό το διάστημα.
So our question is, when you think of this word communication, what's working for you? What's working for you? Or what do you think you could maybe make use of? So what's working for you? So what we're going to do is use the breakout rooms again. And we're going to put people, not for very long, just 3 or 4 minutes, on the theme of communication. So the question is really, if you could just, just reinforce this, Katerina, just communicate with each other in the groups to talk about what you're finding is working best to help your children communicate with each other.
Ωραία. Θα χωριστούμε πάλι τώρα στα δωμάτια για να συζητήσουμε για λίγα λεπτά τι έχουμε δει ότι δουλεύει όσον αφορά την επικοινωνία των παιδιών μεταξύ τους.
Okay, I'm opening up the rooms. Just 3 or 4 minutes in the rooms. Exchange your ideas, and then we'll bring you back. This. Get this on the graphic.
Yes, I will bring it up.
Yeah, if that bring it up as people come back. Yeah. And I'll ask people to use the chat, so you can keep an eye on that as well. And Katerina. Back. So what we'd like to do is use the chat function. So if you can use the chat box just to record your feedback on this, really. So the question, if you recall, is communication. What's working for you? And Katerina, if anybody chooses to feedback in Greek, could you translate it for us, please?
Yes, yes, of course. Ωραία, μας λένε τώρα εδώ να χρησιμοποιήσουμε το chat για να γράψουμε όποιος θέλει από όλες τις ομάδες τι έχουμε βρει και τα παιδιά. Όποιος τα ελληνικά και θα το μεταφράσουμε.
So, as soon as you're ready, start typing into the chat what's working for your children to maximize their communication. What's working? And Elliot will capture on the big graphic here.
Until people start typing, let me just say that what I've seen is that, especially for the younger kids, there is no replacing with face-to-face communication. It's one of those things that I think the younger the child is, technology can't replace face-to-face.
No. The more they're wanting the face-to-face, absolutely. Yeah. And have you found a way of them being able to do that safely?
Outdoors with our neighbors and cousins. Sure. It's all we can do.
Yeah, outdoors, neighbors and cousins. Yeah, I can see that. Because the face-to-face is just so important. Maria's saying about using films for a 19-year-old young man as helping him probably with communication. I guess you get to talk about it, Maria. And could you read the next comment, please?
Yes, it says, let me just find it 1 minute. Showing respect to privacy and personal space. Says.
And then we had somebody else saying about gaming, doing gaming for 16-year-olds. That was a way of them communicating. Era was saying about sharing interests with their friends, actually playing online games or outdoor activities such as football. Maria also saying football for a 13-year-old.
Phone calls sometimes, not always.
Sure, so sometimes the phone call. 13, 15-year-old using Viber or Skype and walking with their brother. Mobile contact, social media, video games, walking, playing out. Lego, that's interesting, Lego. Puzzles are another one, aren't they? Jigsaw puzzles. If you get alongside a child, they're more likely to speak to you if you're sharing an activity like Lego or puzzles, interestingly, or brick building, depending on their age. Group 9, it's difficult to meet with other people, so as for the kids to play due to fear or family routine, very rarely the kids meet in person. So it's social media mainly being used there. And Nicolita's comment. Katerina, can you see it?
Yes. Yeah, she just says that she has a problem with her mic and she can't hear at all. So I don't know.
Sure.
We can send her.
Yeah, sorry, Nicolita. Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Hopefully the replay will work better for you. Conversations with the family to encourage them to express their feelings. I always tell them there is no right or wrong feeling. Very good, Chris. Very good. I love that. Online parties, not only for birthdays, but with a theme we've chosen. Yeah, that's a lovely idea. Sending online invitations, dressing up, having food in front of us, someone playing the music. We all have open cameras and dance together. Eleni, I love that. I love that. That's beautiful, beautiful. era. More children prefer face-to-face communication, in your opinion. I'm sure you're right. Mind gaming, quizzes during the lunchtime, ruler, lovely. Playing with friends in the neighborhood for the 9-year-old girl. Good one again. Angeris, what was this one?
This one, he says he's a teacher and his students, 12 and 14 years old, find their own ways to communicate even during online lessons.
There's always a way, isn't there? There's always a way to communicate. Interestingly, Yanis was saying the ideas from their group was partying through Zoom or WebEx, where a classmate has a birthday with music, socializing, board games. Not our best choice in Greece, but a pen friend with a kid from another country. Yeah, that's interesting. And what was Maria saying?
No, she just says that she can't hear me. Ελπίζω τώρα ότι με ακούτε καλύτερα.
Sure. Give the kids the excitement of snail mail to write to someone from the other side of the world. Yeah, that's a lovely idea. Lovely idea. And Sophia was saying?
About sound.
Oh, technical stuff. Yeah, okay. Right. So that's probably plenty on the communication theme. Very good responses. Thank you so much, everybody. Wonderful stuff. Aristo. Elliot, what did you hear there? Any strong themes in what you heard?
I like the idea of talking about films of your 19-year-old. That's the kind of common ground that anyone can talk to you about. I think someone else said something similar, didn't they? What was it?
Good.
Someone said no right or wrong feelings. That's obviously really good language to be using with young people. But just finding common ground, I think that's a good thing. Like birthdays, that's common ground, something to talk about. These quizzes, these can kind of really break down social barriers between people who wouldn't usually communicate. We did one for my granddad's 90th birthday. And it was really cool because, you know, we don't really talk to each other that much. If we didn't have that to talk about, we might not have known what to say. But this just made it easy for us to communicate because we had this quiz to talk about. Yeah.
Perfect. Very good. Very good. Okay. And Sophia, do you need us to lower our microphones a bit?
Yes, just a bit.
Is that both of us, Elliot and myself?
Just a bit, yes.
Yeah, of course.
Just to avoid some sound problems. Okay.
Is that any better?
Thank you.
Is that better? Yeah, fabulous. Okay. All right, so just some other pieces. So that was communication, very important. And now technology has already been mentioned several times here. Elliot, do you want to speak to these?
Yeah, so we know you guys are using Viber, WhatsApp, Skype to talk to each other, to talk to your friends, for your young people to talk to their cousins, their grandparents, their friends. So any form of technology, any excuse to communicate or any reason or way to communicate is useful. So definitely just utilize what you've got available. And if you don't have, you know, the smartphone technology or, you know, high-tech stuff, just use the landline, just call on the house phone, you know, just try and encourage them to stay in contact and use whatever they've got available to them. Someone said snail mail. It is a form of technology, I guess. Old school technology.
Yeah, write a letter. Go old school.
Get a pen out, you know.
Get the pen out. Get the paper out. Why not? Why not? Now's the time, isn't it? Now's the time. Yeah, so technology.
Πότε μπορούμε να χρησιμοποιήσουμε. Από πιο προηγμένη μέχρι πιο παραδοσιακή.
And try not to be kind of sniffy or, you know, disrespectful about what your children or young people are drawn to in the technology or in this form of communication they want to use. Because we can't we? As adults, we can shake our heads or be judgmental. That's not helpful right now. We have to kind of go with whatever they're using to communicate.
So if they're using TikTok or if they're using Snapchat or if they only want to text and they don't want to call, that's just a different way to communicate, and that's just what young people are used to now.
That's right. And as Elliot is fond of reminding me, the moment we as parents start using one of these systems, the young people will stop using it. So that's quite interesting as well, isn't it? There's a dynamic running here as well, isn't there, between the older adult and the children and young people, particularly in the teenage years.
Ναι, οπότε έχει να κάνει με το τι χρησιμοποιούν οι νέοι, τι χρησιμοποιούν εμείς οι γονείς και πώς με το που ξεκινήσουμε να χρησιμοποιούμε εμείς το μεν, σταματάνε τα παιδιά να το χρησιμοποιούν. Αλλά το σημαντικό πάντα είναι να μην είμαστε επικριτικοί στη μέθοδο που επιλέγει το παιδί να χρησιμοποιήσει για να επικοινωνήσει.
Ευχαριστώ. Now, if there's any opportunity at all for your children or young people to help another person, like a sick relative, and I know that's one of your codes, isn't it? One of your codes that you can use for leaving the house. But maybe if it was helping a next door neighbor or somebody else in the community, but you were ticking the sick relative box, this is very good for the young people, particularly at this time, really. Anything they can do for another human being is boosting their spirit of generosity, their opportunity to give and to help, which is an extremely important part of being a human being. And it's something that's got a bit gets squashed in lockdown, gets lost in lockdown. So any opportunity to be helpful beyond the family, and safely, obviously, to be welcomed.
Ναι, οποιαδήποτε λοιπόν ευκαιρία μπορούμε να ενθαρρύνουμε τα παιδιά να συμμετέχουν σε κάποια δράση για να βοηθήσουν κάποιον άλλον ή κάποια άλλη ομάδα πέρα από την οικογένεια, ενθαρρύνει αυτή την αίσθηση της προσφοράς και της γενεοδορίας, που είναι κάτι το οποίο είναι πολύ σημαντικό, αλλά τώρα εν μέσω του lockdown καμιά φορά ξεχνιέται.
So this young man, he's helping his mum deliver food to people who don't have enough food right now. So that's
το παιδάκι αυτό που μοιράζει με τη μητέρα του φαγητό σε ανθρώπους που δεν είχαν τώρα και δεν μπορούσαν να πάνε.
Our next thought would be, which again has been mentioned by several of you already, the importance of nature. Being active, getting fresh air, getting the child or young person away from the screen, and obviously ticking your box of going for a walk or going, for a shop. Get outside, really, get outside. And there is the possibility in your walk that you might see another human being, even if the child gets to wave safely at a distance or to signal at a distance to other young people they recognize or other adults they recognize along the way. All of this is good, but just fresh air and nature and creatures and birds and things that swim and all the rest of it, very, very important right now.
Ναι, οπότε η ενασχόληση με τη φύση, η σωματική άσκηση και τα λοιπά και στο καθαρό αέρα, όλα αυτά είναι πολύ ευεργετικά, όπως ξέρουμε.
It's true. It's true for us as adults. It's very true for children. They won't always say it out loud or acknowledge it, perhaps, in the way that many adults would, but we know they need to be out in nature. And this, I'm hoping this is going to work. Now, can you see this, Katerina? Or not?
No, I can just see your screen with the mouse, but it's a blank screen.
Can't see what's on it. No, okay. There was just a lovely site there was somebody written an article about the joy of steps, 20 ways to give purpose to your daily walk. So just a few points, really. One was spotting birds that you would see in this time of year. Not trying to go too far, just aiming low.
Let me just say these points. Μερικές ιδέες από ένα άρθρο που είχε γράψει κάποιος για τις βόλτες και πράγματα που μπορούν να μας βοηθήσουν. Το ένα ήταν το να παρατηρούμε τα πουλιά, το άλλο ήταν να κοιτάμε το ρυθμό στον οποίο περπατάμε.
Taking a story walk. So maybe listening to something on your phone in your ears as you're walking.
Ναι, περπάτημα με μουσική, με κάποια ιστορία που ακούμε συγχρόνως.
If you know anything about mindfulness, encouraging your child or young person to do something mindful as they're walking, like literally focusing on the smells and the sounds and the sights, really tuning in a mindfulness way to what's going on around you.
Είναι να κάνουμε ασκήσεις ενσυνειδητότητας και χαλάρωσης και παρατήρησης των αισθήσεών μας καθώς περπατάμε.
Giving yourself a mission, and children and young people, especially boys, often like this, really. Finding a mission, there's maybe something we're looking for or something we're searching for, or we're going to try and get to this point and back within a certain time.
Ναι, και ειδικά με τα αγόρια το να έχουμε κάποιο στόχο ή κάποια αποστολή που κάνουμε κατά τη διάρκεια του περπατήματος.
And you might also, there might be certain animals where you live that need a bit of seeking out. In a city, UK, we often have urban foxes. So if you can kind of sort of go out of your way to kind of seek them out, again, many young people are interested in that. Now, you're going to have your Greek equivalents. There will be certain animals and creatures. They're quite rare, but if you really kind of seek them out, you might be able to find them.
Ναι, να προσπαθήσουμε να βρούμε κάποιο ζώο που να είναι κοντά, έτσι, αλλά να θέλει λίγο προσπάθεια να το βρούμε και πώς πάνε. Και αυτό είναι μια άλλη ιδέα.
Give your child a magnifying glass. You know, that they always go down well.
Ναι, γεννητικός φακός.
You do a treasure hunt, create a bit of a treasure hunt for your child.
Κυνήγι θησαυρού.
Find some historical things that are happening near where you live and try and find the history and create a little kind of learning adventure, but also you're traveling around, finding out some of the history of where you live.
Και έτσι συνδέοντας το με κάτι μαθητικό.
And the final thing is perhaps use an old-fashioned physical map, an old paper map, and just, you know, you don't need the battery on your phone or anything. You're just going to follow the old-fashioned map and see what you can get to with it.
Τους παραδοσιακούς χάρτες.
Yeah, all good stuff. All these seem to work really well. Okay, and oops, I don't want that anymore. So how's the graphic looking, Elliot?
Let's have a look. Just trying to do all of this stuff. So we're getting there. Drawing the little missions. About animals, birds, fresh air.
Oh yes, he's getting it. That's all good. Fabulous. Just seeing that was all working well. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. So, well, keep speaking, Elliot, because next up was pets and other animals, one of your favourite themes. So, I'm not sure in Greece whether you'd have ducks as pets. Maybe you would, but probably not.
Nobody has ducks as pets.
Anybody has pets
in the UK. But we do go to the park and feed the ducks. So we bring a loaf of bread, and we throw the bread at the ducks, and they eat the bread. And this is like a real pastime. Throw it in the water, and they eat it. And you have to try and make sure you give them just small bits of bread, not big bits, because you'll get in trouble from your grandma. So there is, something real therapeutic about animals. If you have a dog at home or a cat, you know, or a little rabbit, hamster, these are really, you know, good right now because they can keep you company, don't feel lonely, gives you a sense of purpose, you've got something to look after. So it's just really important to have animals around. I think a lot of people have been adopting animals, getting a new dog or something. And yeah, hopefully they'll actually still be able to look after those dogs after we go back to work. Oh, you're on mute, Katrina.
Sorry. Μας έλεγε ο Έλιοτ για τα ζώα και τα ζώα συντροφιάς και τα κατοικίδια, πόσο ευεργετικό μπορεί να είναι και αυτό και ότι ελπίζουμε ότι και μετά όταν επιστρέψουμε στην κανονικότητα ότι δεν θα σταματήσουν οι άνθρωποι να προσέχουν έτσι τα ζώα που έχουν πάρει αυτό το διάστημα για κατοικίδια.
Yeah, very good, very good. Now, what we want to do now is kind of go a bit deep with you, really. And here's a bit of deep psychology for you about what we're going through right now. And you're going to need some paper, paper and a pencil, paper and a pen, and you're going to draw some lines. Elliot, could you show us the lines maybe on your graphic? You're going to need 5 lines, 5 lines. Kind of like those kind of lines, just with one point at one end and one point at the other.
Ωραία. Οπότε να σχεδιάσουμε εδώ σε ένα χαρτί 5 γραμμές, όπως μας δείχνει τώρα εδώ και ο Έλιοτ.
Because what we want to explore with you now is 5 kind of fundamental, ordinary psychological needs that all your children share. It doesn't matter who your child is or what they're like, or if they have special needs or any kind of complex difficulties. All children and young people and adults actually share these needs. And we're just going to go through them one at a time. And what we'd like you to do on your lines that you're drawing in front of you, we'd like you first of all to think about yourself on these lines. And we'd also, then we're going to ask you to think about maybe if you've got more than one of your children, just pick one child, maybe the one that worries you the most perhaps, or the one that's most challenging. So just pick one of your children and think of yourself. And we're going to ask, and if you've got 2 different colors, that would probably be quite helpful with this. Otherwise, draw a circle and a cross, so you don't get muddled up.
Ωραία, οπότε σε αυτές τις 5 γραμμές, κάθε γραμμή είναι για μία από τις βασικές ψυχολογικές ανάγκες που έχει ο κάθε άνθρωπος, παιδί ή ενήλικας, και μας ζητάει τώρα να σκεφτούμε και τον εαυτό μας και το παιδί μας ή κάποιο από τα παιδιά μας όπου μας απασχολεί περισσότερο, και είτε να το δείξουμε με διαφορετικό χρώμα ή με διαφορετικό σύμβολο. Θα μας εξηγήσει τώρα πώς.
So we're going to go, so these are the 5 ordinary needs of being a human being. We're just going to go through them one at a time. So the first one is opportunities to contribute. In other words, to help other people, to make some kind of contribution to people around you. And we'd like you to think, right here you are, well, first of all, put a cross where you were before lockdown. So over a year ago, before we had this lockdown, what were your opportunities to contribute? Where were you on that line? And if you could put a cross, so that would be really clear. And on one side, it's going to be 0 on the line, and the other side is 10. So 0 is non-existent, 10 is very, very high. Where are you on that line? Where were you, sorry, on that line?
Η πρώτη ανάγκη λοιπόν είναι η προσφορά στο συνάνθρωπο, και σε κάθε γραμμή τώρα, ξεκινώντας από το 0 στη μία άκρη και το 10 στην άλλη άκρη, να σημειώσουμε με ένα χ που ήμασταν πριν το lockdown, ο καθένας, που βρισκόταν.
So that's me. I'm pretty high up there. Lots of opportunities to contribute, to help other people, to contribute. Now, during lockdown, where are you now on the same line? Make another cross where you feel you are right now.
Και βάλω άλλο ένα χ για το που είμαστε τώρα.
And now think about your child that you're thinking about. Where are they on this line?
Και το ίδιο κάνουμε και για το παιδί μας.
Again, use a different color or a circle. Where are they on the line? Sorry, where were they on the line a year ago, and where are they now?
Πού ήταν πριν ένα χρόνο και πού είναι τώρα.
Different color or a different shape, either's fine. Okay, got the idea? And we're going to do that for each of these needs. So here's the next one, having enough choice and control in your life. To be able to choose what you're going to do.
Οι επιλογές και ο έλεγχος της ζωής μας.
Again, so for yourself, a year ago, where are you on this line? And now, where are you on the line? And your child, where are they a year ago and now? Where would you find them? And then next, opportunities to go to ordinary places in the world. The park, the school, the play area. But for you, the bar, the club, you know, the place you like to hang out, the seashore, wherever you like to just go. Again, where were you a year ago in going to ordinary places? Where are you now? Where was your child a year ago, and where are they now?
Το ίδιο κάνουμε λοιπόν για τον τρίτο, που είναι η ευκαιρία για να πάμε σε καθημερινά μέρη. Τόσο για εμάς όσο και για το παιδί μας. Για το παιδί μπορεί να είναι, ας πούμε, παιδική χαρά, για εμάς μπορεί να είναι ένα μπαρ, ένα εστιατόριο.
And then, how about this one? A year ago, being someone. This is about identity. So who did you feel you were a year ago? That opportunity is to really have a sense of an identity. And now, your sense of being someone? How does that feel? Has it felt more constricted perhaps? And also thinking of your child, their identity a year ago and their identity now.
Το τέταρτο έχει να κάνει με την έννοια της ταυτότητας και το τι αισθανόμαστε ότι ήμασταν πριν ένα χρόνο, τόσο εμείς όσο και το παιδί μας, και πώς αισθανόμαστε ότι είναι η ταυτότητά μας τώρα.
And then finally, bless you, finally, opportunities to belong with family, with friends, with connections a year ago, now, and the same for your child, a year ago and now.
Και το τελευταίο είναι η αίσθηση του ανήκειν, το να είσαι με τους ανθρώπους σου και τους δικούς σου φίλους, που ήμασταν πριν ένα χρόνο και που είμαστε τώρα.
Now we can guarantee, you know, we could put big money on the fact that you will on all of those lines, almost certainly you'll have gone down the line for yourself, and you know how that feels, and so will your child have gone. As their world has become more constricted, as your world has become more constricted, these have been more hard. Now, they are fundamental psychological needs. So anything you can do to strengthen those needs for yourself and for your child or young person, the better. So our homework for you is to look at these lines and think both for yourself and for your child or young person, how could you move one step, and only one tiny, tiny, tiny step in the positive direction on each of these lines? What could you do? What can you figure out? That's your homework.
Ωραία. Οπότε, εδώ παρατηρούμε ότι τόσο για μας όσο και για το παιδί μας, σε αυτές τις βασικές ανάγκες έχουμε όλοι κάνει τρομερή βουτιά προς τα πίσω και ο στόχος μας και αυτό που θέλουν από εμάς είναι να σκεφτούμε πώς μπορούμε σε αυτές τις βασικές ανάγκες να κάνουμε μία μικρή, έστω ένα μικρό βήματάκι προς τα εμπρός, προσφέροντας κάτι και για τον εαυτό μας και για τα παιδιά μας, ώστε να πάνε έστω ένα μικρό βηματάκι μπροστά σε αυτές τις ανάγκες.
Evaristo, that's your homework. Just a small challenge, so an opportunity to reflect on yourself, but also do some planning around your young person. So we're nearly at the end. Just a couple of things to finish with. One is this message: don't try and do it on your own. Never dive alone. In the same way, scuba divers around Greek islands would never dive on their own for safety reasons. You need to find somebody to keep you safe as a parent, as a carer. If you're a lone parent, who can you look to for support? It's very important.
Ναι, οπότε εδώ πέρα το μήνυμα είναι στο να μην προσπαθούμε να τα κάνουμε όλα μόνοι μας και εμείς χρειαζόμαστε κάποιον για να μας υποστηρίζει και να βεβαιώνεται ότι είμαστε και εμείς ψυχολογικά καλά και ασφαλείς και να σκεφτούμε ποιος είναι αυτός και τι στήριξη μπορεί να έχουμε και εμείς για να φέρουμε πέρα στην αποστολή αυτή.
And just to remind you what we mentioned earlier on, we have this Inclusive Solutions School that you are able to access if you want to learn more about any of the ideas we've been talking about this evening and other ideas as well around a whole range of issues, and from autism to broadly about inclusion, to getting children's views, to tackling bullying in schools.
Εδώ είναι η ιστοσελίδα τους και το σχολείο, το online σχολείο αυτό που μας είπαν ότι δημιούργησαν, που έχει πολλές πληροφορίες για διάφορα θέματα που δουλεύουν, που μπορείτε να δείτε.
Particularly useful if any of your children have had traumatic events in their life or have big mental health issues for whatever reason. Here's how you access the courses. You can take a photo of the QR code or make a note of the website address there.
Και εδώ πέρα είναι η διεύθυνση και το QR code.
Fine. So, just one last thing I should have mentioned, and we put a discount code in for you as well. So make a little note of the Greek offer there. That's your discount code.
Thank you for that.
% on any of these courses.
Δίνουν και μία κωδικό για όσους από εσάς θέλετε να παρακολουθήσετε κάποιο από τα άλλα προγράμματα τους.
So, Evaristo, Elliot, could we just have one last look at the final graphic? Because we are pretty much there now.
Yeah, let's have a quick look. 3, 2, 1.
And we know we've reached the time now at the end. So thank you so much for getting so well involved in our session there on interrupting isolation. And hopefully if you just picked up just one idea, it's been worthwhile. So what we'd like you to do before you leave us is if you could just use the chat, as some people have already started to do, and just let us know what this training has meant to you, what this session has meant to you. Just literally use the chat before you disappear. That'd be fantastic.
Ωραία, οπότε σας ευχαριστήσουμε. Αν μπορείτε να μας γράψετε στο chat, όπως ήδη γράφετε τα καλά σας λόγια, ένα πράγμα που σας έμεινε, ένα σχόλιο για το τι ήταν αυτό που σας βοήθησε περισσότερο.
Ευχαριστώ. Over to you, Sophia.
Σας ευχαριστούμε πολύ. Thank you so much for the helpful information and advice. Ευχαριστούμε πολύ και τους συμμετέχοντες για τη συμμετοχή και τα καλά λόγια που μας στέλνετε στο chat. Βεβαίως και την Τρίτη στις 6 Απριλίου θα έχουμε τη δυνατότητα να συζητήσουμε και απορίες ή ερωτήσεις και πάνω σε αυτά που ήδη υπόθηκαν σήμερα αλλά και στη χθεσινή συνάντηση. Και μην ξεχάσετε ότι έχουμε και αύριο την κλασική συνάντηση της Τετάρτης που αφορά περισσότερο τους εκπαιδευτικούς μας και το burnout της περίοδου του lockdown. Να σας καληνυχτήσουμε και εμείς. Κυρία Λασκαρίδου, θα θέλατε κι εσείς κάτι περισσότερο να προσθέσετε?
Εγώ το μόνο που ήθελα να πω, πέρα από το να ευχαριστήσω πολύ και τον Κόλιν και τον Έλιοτ, αλλά όλους σας που ήρθατε, πραγματικά συμφωνώ μαζί σας ότι ίσως το γεγονός ότι συζητάς και μοιράζεσαι και βλέπεις ότι τελικά παντού τα ίδια πράγματα αντιμετωπίζουμε, ότι πολλά από αυτά που κάνουμε είναι σωστά, απλά είναι ότι είναι όντως τόσο δύσκολο, δεν είναι ότι δεν τα κάνουμε σωστά. Απλά, ναι, πραγματικά. Και ήταν όλα, νομίζω, εξαιρετικά χρήσιμα. So thank you, Colin and Elliot. I think what most people is saying that the idea that you break isolation just by talking to other people who share the same view with you and the same issues, and it's just that very thing breaks isolation. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been lovely working with you all again. Avaristo, everybody, have a good evening, stay safe, and we meet again with as many people who want to come back to us next week, next Tuesday.
Thank you.
See you next week.
Avaristo.
Thank you very much.
Καλό βράδυ σε όλους.
Ευχαριστώ πολύ. Καληνύχτα.
Γεια σας.
Καληνύχτα.
Ο σύνθεσμος για αύριο είναι ο ίδιος που έχετε ήδη, να υπενθυμίσω, που έχετε ήδη λάβει στο mail σας.
Ωραία, ευχαριστούμε πολύ. Και αύριο με το καλό. Γεια σας.
Γεια σας, γεια σας.
Thank you, Mr. Colin and Elliot.
Thank you, thank you. You're welcome.